Partner, where to?
Yeah, so the NFL executive anonymous voting continues, and the latest out is on inside linebackers, where we want to find out where Roquan Smith landed, but it is not a surprise. I mean, this list seems pretty fair to me. Fred Warner of the San Francisco 49ers was number 1. And then you got our guy, Roquan Smith. I'll get to the write-up in just a second. Zach Bond from the Philadelphia Eagles. Number 4 is Nick Bolton out of the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'll just go to number 5, Frankie Louvu, Washington Commanders. If you want to check out the rest of the top 5, feel free to go check out this article. But there is Roquan right there, still sitting there at number 2. And, I think considering what happened last year, especially on defense, this is a more than fair ranking with what Roquan has gotten here. And, the lowest ranking he got of all the voters was number 10, and the highest ranking he got was number 1. So, but overall, he stays the same from last year, where he was also number 2 behind Fred Warner. So it's just a wide range of the rankings he got from 1 to 10.
That is insane.
It really is insane that
you can Lamar, right? We thought Lamar down to 6 when we covered it earlier on was insane. 1 to 10 is pretty darn wide.
It's a large range, that's for sure. It's a large range. So here's the write-up on him. It says, to fully appreciate Smith is to look past his numbers, they say. So this is a film study type of ranking from these guys. It says he's not the classic stat stuffer with modest production in the passing game, 4 deflections, 1 interception, and splash plays. So modest there. He says 1 forced fumble and 1.5 sacks. 4 of his 81 solo tackles were for a loss. So yeah, not eye-popping numbers there. But the article goes on, he's the type of player whom opponents and even fans inside the stadium or through the TV perceive as a true tone setter with blitz ability, leverage, and mental edge. Smith is coming off his second consecutive first-team All-Pro season, and his run-stop percentage of 5.6, tackles at or behind the line of scrimmage on design runs, was second among all linebackers and the best among the top 10. Okay, so that's all pretty nice to this point. Now, here's one AFC executive what he had to say about him. He said, Roquan isn't necessarily the most physically talented, but he's very productive in both phases and is the catalyst for their defense in the middle of the field, and a guy you have to account for in phases. When you factor all that, plus the elite leadership he brings and attitude for their team, I think he deserves to be up there. So my guess is this AFC executive gave him one of those higher rankings. But there's an NFL defensive assistant that called Roquan Smith out. And it's probably a hard truth that I think Roquan has already accepted. It says one NFL defensive assistant says he believes Smith can elevate his game by improving his conditioning. Two of his votes were at number 10. So not just one, but 2 people voted him number 10. Here's what this defensive assistant said. Quote, I think he needs to get in better shape. He looks a little sluggish at times, close quote. Bobby, pretty fair?
It is fair, and it's nothing that hasn't already been discussed and mentioned. We can probably all think about plays in our heads from last year where those adjectives or sluggish suffices, that matches up with what you saw on tape from Roquan. The reason why I refuse to sound the alarm bells right now and refuse to panic is 2 reasons. One, I think he was overcompensating through the first quarter of last year because of his running mate Trenton Simpson and how he wasn't fully up to speed. 2, you had Marcus Williams and Eddie Jackson making business decisions on the back end, leading to really all what breaking loose at times back there. And the underneath pass coverage was a problem for Roquan. We saw that week 1. I would have to think this defensive assistant, like everybody else was, watched that rematch of the AFC Championship game. Was it in Kansas City last year? What was week 1? You're muted right now. It was in Kansas City, wasn't it?
Sorry, I was muted.
Why am I blanking?
The AFC Championship game was in KC.
Well, no, the AFC Championship game between the Ravens and Chiefs 2 years ago was in Baltimore. Where was
Yeah.
Week 1, the rematch last year?
Oh, my bad. Yes, that was also in KC.
Okay, thank you. I don't know why I'm blanking on that. So I'd have to think that the majority of the NFL world watched that game. And if this assistant did, he saw what we saw. It was a slow half step behind Roquan Smith, but I think there were reasons for that aside from just his conditioning. Is that fair?
I think it's fair. I think it was both. He was definitely overcompensating, and he was not in the shape we're used to seeing him in. But I will say this, Bobby, I think that this is true, but I think Roquan has already heard it. And we've already seen him report to OTAs and minicamp, and he already looks like he's returned to the physical shape we're used to seeing him in. And so the good news is that he's still an all-pro. He's still, by these guys ranked number 2 in a down year. So hopefully this motivates him, and I can tell it already has because of the physical shape he reported in at minicamp, that I think he's ready to get back at it and use this as a chip on his shoulder and be like, "Oh, you thought I lost a step? Okay, let's go."
I totally agree with that. And that's who Roquan is. He responds to adversity. He doesn't get insulted by it, although I said something last year that clearly set him off because he unfollowed me on Instagram. So I don't know what that was all about, and that doesn't necessarily speak to what I'm talking about right now, which is sort of this thick-skinned mentality. But everything you know about Roquan and everything we learned of him has never, ever suggested that. That was the first thing, and again, this was just a personal thing I've already talked about. I think it was on my personal channel. I think I mentioned it here once. That was one thing. Hopefully it's just a total small outlier, because it did not represent what we knew and what we know of Roquan Smith.
Yes, and neither one of us gamble, but if I had to put money on it, I would predict a bounce back year for Roquan for sure. Let's get to a couple quick hits before we bring in PHP. So I saw this rumor going around in the AFC North. We've been covering it a little bit about how Shamar Stewart has been holding out from practice with the Cincinnati Bengals over a contract dispute and guaranteed money. And so here's that, really trendy at ML Football Twitter account. They've got breaking news with the Red Sirens and say Bengals first round pick Shamar Stewart left the team and went back to practicing with Texas A&M. Stewart now may not play in the NFL this season and return to Texas A&M and re-enter the draft in 2026. Shamar has been practicing with the Aggies all summer. Okay. Our girl, Kelsey Conway, who was an intern for our department when I was still working at the Ravens, and she has just moved up and up and up. She's doing great, and she's been on this show. And she covers the Bengals for the Cincinnati Enquirer. She tweets, "Let me clear this up for everyone. Shamar Stewart lives in Texas when he's not in Cincinnati. I can confirm from a source that he is training at A&M by himself using their facilities," puts in parentheses, very common. And Bobby, I can also say that is very common. It's very, so he's using their facilities to get ready for the upcoming NFL season, not with the Texas A&M team. She says, carry on. So I don't know how it went from what is normal for players to go back to their old school and to work out to this saying he's going to re-enter the draft. And actually, Bobby, I haven't refreshed myself on the rules, but I'm pretty sure that if you've been drafted, you can't just say "Oh, I didn't like that to be drafted by this team, so I'm going to re-enter the draft." The Bengals would still have his rights.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not how it works. Otherwise people would just be like, "Oh, I got drafted by the Cleveland Browns or what other poverty team there is. Oh, never mind. I don't want to declare anymore. I'm going to go back for my senior year or whatever." That's not how it works. So I don't know how that rumor went from one thing to another, but Kelsey Conway clearing it up.
Tell you what, Sarah, you know how with Emory Jones, one of the Ravens draft picks, the tackle out of LSU, if memory serves, you know how we've kind of been like, man, hope he's ready for training camp. Hope he has a chance to start fresh with all of his fellow rookies and kind of get a start from the jump. You know, we've been talking about that since we learned of the shoulder setback that he had this offseason that John Harbaugh talked about, what is weeks back now. Like, we've been discussing that for a while, the Emory Jones nugget. The Bengals are flirting with the same thing, except their player is not injured. And can you imagine if your first round pick is not a participant in training camp? It's one thing up until now. It's been contractual. We know it's all about guaranteed money, and we know what Cincinnati's doing. They are doing something they have never done before, and they're trying to make Shamar the guinea pig for a new rule, a new clause. And he and his representation are calling their bluff. Not a chance. We're not showing up until it goes back to the previous ruling.
By the way, I just want to
disaster.
I just want to clear up one. Yeah, they definitely are. I just want to clear one thing up. I was a little bit wrong. You can't re-enter the current draft. This is according to the AI overview. Very reliable. Says no, a player cannot simply re-enter the NFL draft if they don't like the team that drafted them. However, a player can refuse to sign with the team that drafted them, which would make them eligible for the following year's draft, though they may face a reduced draft position and a stigma. And so, yeah, I'll just put it that way. Like, if I'm another team, I'm like, do I want to draft somebody that was, refused to go to this other team?
Wow.
And maybe somebody would, because it's like, oh, I would give him that guaranteed money, So.
Oh. But again, like, think about the difference in problems, like quote unquote problems. For the Ravens, you're just hoping that Emory Jones Jr. can get back healthy for a full training camp.
Mm-hmm.
In Shamar's case in Cincy, both sides are dug in.
Yep.
He may not be a part of his first ever training camp, and they need him. Now, their defensive front still has given the Ravens wreaked a bunch of havoc over the years. But Shamar's already a player that's been much maligned because of his lack of sack production at Texas A&M. So certainly a tumultuous start for their rookie, to say the very least.
Yeah, and real quick, the Jets and All-Pro cornerback Sauce Gardner agreed to terms for a massive new contract yesterday, according to Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network. It's a 4-year, $120.4 million deal, which is $30.1 million per year. To put that in context, Bobby, that $30.1 million per year, Marlon Humphrey, who signed an extension with the Ravens several years ago now, he's now been knocked down to number 9 on the list of highest paid corners. He's at 19.5. And then the Ravens, other 3, where everybody's feeling pretty good about the depth and price, Jair Alexander at $4 million, Chido Awuzie at $1.2 million, and then Nate Wiggins still on his rookie contract as a first rounder at $3.2 million. So all of them combined don't even come close to Sauce's $30.1 million. Sauce, of course, deserving of it, but it just goes to show you what happens with the NFL contract cycle.
Hey, if I'm Nate Wiggins, I'm like, all right, great. I just put forth an awesome rookie season. The sky's the limit. Let me go chase after this. Like, let me just go continue to stack. And you get the sense he's going to have a chance to do that after year one. What do you got here?
Just while we're talking about Sauce, he did have 1 interception last year, and so did Michael Pierce. So should Michael Pierce have retired? Look at the money Sauce is getting with the 1 interception.
That's hysterical. Yeah, you know what Sauce is all about, though. They just don't throw his way. That's why he doesn't get a lot of picks.
Yes. Also, the Chiefs and their guard, Trey Smith, finalized a 4-year, $94 million extension. So he's now the highest paid guard. And look at Patrick Mahomes' reaction. Yeah. Big smiley face. Big smiley face. So building around Patrick Mahomes. And then I think this is the last one, Bobby. On the left, we see Zay Flowers. Looks like he got some work in with OBJ, his former teammate, and a receiver we've talked about already, Jamar Chase over there on the left. And I can't tell who else is in there, but those are some of the main guys. And on the right, that looks like DeAndre Hopkins skydiving. So
is he really?
That's what it looks like from his Instagram stories. So listen, he's living it up before he has to report. And then, no, this is the last quick hit. Top 10 NFL defense since 2000. The top 10 NFL defense. This is according to the Pro Football Sports Network, look how many times they have a Ravens defense. And this is why everybody thinks that Lamar had a good defense last year. Number 1 on this list, 2000 Ravens. Number 4 on this list, so underrated, the 2006 Ravens. Tied for number 8 on this list is the 2008 Baltimore Ravens. And the number 10 on this list is the 2003 Baltimore Ravens. We were living in a golden era of defense. And I was here for almost all of it, starting in 2005.
Which is why the first half of last year was so jarring, right?
Yes.
To view them on the literal opposite side of all historical rankings, or at least 2024 rankings at that. So good stuff.